If you're trying to get your short film distributed, it's almost impossible. And that's why we decided to create ELEVI. ELEVI is a platform that is dedicated to the filmmakers, the athletes, and all the people that are behind some of the best shorts about sports, adventure, nature. And we decided to do this with just one goal in mind. We want to create a community where the filmmakers are finally rewarded. So I hope you will enjoy today's episode. And if you find value, please don't forget to subscribe and follow us. And thank you. I hope you will enjoy. How different it is to free dive in Greenland compared to other locations?
Oh my God. Yeah, how to even begin to explain? It's freediving in Greenland is maybe the ultimate trip to another planet. It's really unique. I cannot compare it to anything else I've experienced under the water because, of course, of the challenges of the surroundings, the cold, the ice, the freezing water, the Arctic weather, all those play a big part in it. But then also going under the surface through the little ice hole, the moment I dive down is the first time I see the world that reveals itself to me. I cannot look from above the surface at what I'm about to see. And every time it's as if I've left Earth and gone into the space, really. It's like going through a portal into another world. And knowing that what I'm seeing is here now, and it's some of the oldest ice you will find because the icebergs have come from the Greenland glaciers, right? They broke off in the summer and floated into the bay and got frozen in. So I'm looking at very ancient ice in parts, and it's here now, but it will never be there again in that way. Because as soon as it breaks up, it will float out of the bay. The icebergs are on their way. In the summer, it's all going to melt. And it's only there for this moment. And then it's gone. And the next time, it will be completely different. It will not even be close to what I saw. It will be totally different. It's never going to be like that again. And that is something very unique to experience. Plus that it's very challenging. So the combination of those two things is really it's impressive. Like you don't forget that.
I mean, okay, I've seen the footage coming from your latest documentary that you shot with Alexander Benedict, which is going to be on ELEVI soon. I mean, to me, it's always fascinating when I'm talking to an athlete or somebody's like persisting into this kind of any activity, and you've been doing it for quite some time. So what was the reason to like say, okay, I want to explore Greenland now? Because I guess you've been in many other locations and you decided, okay, I want to test my limits, maybe, and you decided to go to Greenland. What was the reason behind that?
For me, the thing is, I've been exploring the underwater world since I was a child. So that's been, I don't know, more than 3 decades. And in any way possible, including scuba diving. So I'm a technical diver, a deep technical scuba diver with helium, air, decompression diving, some cave diving, under ice diving, all that. And then I started freediving and became an athlete who was competing. But my main reason was always to see the underwater world, to see the unknown places. In truth, I wanted to be an astronaut and go into space, but it was easier to go underwater than into space. So I like really looking at the places that are not easy to look at. And at some point, I was kind of done with competing and setting records. And I really returned to exploration. And I thought I want to explore places that I would have gone to see scuba diving, but I want to see if I can do it on a single breath. Also places where a free diver should not be going. And And I have a fascination with snow and ice because I grew up south of Munich, close to the Alps in southern Germany. And when I was small, there was so much snow when I was growing up in the winters. And it was always, for me, the ice and the snow was always already as a child, maybe the most fascinating transformation of the world around me. There's something in it that is so beautiful, but so challenging. And I really enjoy the mixture of those two things. Having to use all my knowledge, all my skills, and my will also to explore this environment is very interesting to me. There are places in the world that are obviously beautiful. I mean, white sandy beach in the Bahamas with palm trees and turquoise blue water. Of course, it's amazing. And I've been there and it's stunning. Everyone thinks that's beautiful. It's easy to find that beautiful. But I like looking at places where I need to have the will to see the beauty of this place and to discover this place. And I like to see how can I fit myself with my body and my mind and my abilities into this environment. Can I belong to this place too? And you really experience that we humans are not disconnected from any place on Earth. Even under the ice in Greenland, next to icebergs, I can be with nothing but the air in my lungs. And that to me is a really striking thing to experience. The first time I went, I just wanted to go to Greenland. I didn't even know if I could dive. I just wanted to be in Greenland. I wanted the ice and the snow and the quiet because my mother had just passed away and I had a really hard time. And I just wanted to be out there somewhere. And I asked the guys who are doing the diving in Greenland if they have a space and if I could maybe go down to 5 meters one day, just one time, and look around, hanging on the line, and if they would allow me to do that. Because, of course, there's a safety issue with a freediver under the ice in Greenland. So normally it's scuba divers. So I would have understood if they said no. And they said, no, it's okay. You come and then we see if you can do any diving. Sometimes maybe we find some open water and, we will figure it out. So you just come. And I didn't even ask where we were staying. I didn't ask. I thought we have to cook for ourselves. I didn't know anything. I had no idea. I didn't even ask. I just said, where do I send my money and when are we going? And I also didn't ask who else was going to be there. And it happened that Tobias Friedrich, one of the best photographers in the world, underwater photographers in the world, a German photographer, happened to be on that same trip. And so we went together, and because I cannot dive without a buddy, and neither can he, we went in the water together on the first day for the check dive. And he took 3 pictures, and the third picture was so mind-blowing that he took, that he said, okay, we have to dive together. And after 1 week, I was supposed to leave, and he said, no, you can't leave now. He was there for another week, and I said, okay, I changed my flight. And then in the second week, we actually did some filming together. And he was also always my safety, the same as with Alexander. So we worked together in safety, but also in creating some images. But ultimately, I just went because I wanted to go to Greenland and just to be in the wilderness and see a lot of ice and snow and not think about anything. And then out of it came some very unique images. And it's nice to see them, but mainly, they are in my head. That's the nicest part of it. That they are all in my head.
So you mentioned safety. Can you free dive in Greenland by yourself? I guess not, right? You always need to have somebody with you.
Yeah. So generally we don't free dive by ourselves at all anyway, right? Please don't try to hold your breath in your bathtub. Don't hold your breath in the swimming pool without telling anybody, because our risk in free diving is the blackout. And the blackout itself is not terrible. If somebody pulls you out of the water, you will wake up and you don't have to go to hospital. It's fine. But if there's nobody there, you will drown also in your bathtub. So we never free dive alone. And anyway, under the ice, generally, we don't. No, also scuba divers don't go alone. So we have to figure out how to make it safe. And it was really complicated because normally when you are going under ice as a scuba diver or a freediver, you always will have a rope that you're attached to, or that is your guideline to find the exit again, because it's really easy to get disoriented and not see the exit. All it takes, for example, give you an example, is a cloud to go over the sun. And suddenly you can't see where the hole is because the light has gone that was shining in. Before you thought, oh, it's very obvious. I can see it clearly. The hole is over there. And then a cloud goes over the sun and you can't see it anymore. That can be enough. And so it's really dangerous to be under ice, to be in any overhead environment where you don't have access to go back to the surface is dangerous. That just has to be said. Now, the thing that was happening in Greenland was that I could not swim around the icebergs attached to a rope because I would get stuck. So then the rope becomes a risk for me. So then you have to weigh up, how are you going to do this in the best way, with the best safety? And of course, what we were doing, for me to freedive without a rope around icebergs under the ice is definitely pushing the boundaries. I mean, this is not freediving for everybody, and you have to really say that this is exploration. We are doing something that nobody has done, and it is not the traditional way to manage your safety around this. We are absolutely stepping outside of lines, and it's challenging because you have to figure out how to be safe without, you can't read the book about how to do that. You know, we have to try and work it out. And then it takes a lot of experience to do that, because I have to know about myself before I start that I will not panic when something will go wrong, because a panic then will really kill me really quickly. So I have to know that something can go wrong, because there is no knowledge about how to do this. And even if you think you did everything and you thought of everything, something can always happen that you didn't prepare for. And so you have to know that in this moment, when something extra goes wrong, I am going to be able to stay calm and figure out how I'm going to solve this problem. And then you also have to constantly check your systems. Like, you have to always have in the back of your head that if everything went well, it's not necessarily because you're so good and you planned everything really well, but it's because you got lucky. You were just probably an idiot who got lucky many, many times, you know, and one day you will not be lucky. And for that day, you have to have the knowledge about yourself, how strong you are mentally. And that takes a long time to gain this level of experience, to be sure you know you're going to be able to handle yourself. And that also includes things like being very conservative. So if I can normally dive around 3 minutes when I'm moving, I would stay maybe 1 minute, maybe sometimes 1 minute 30 if I was in a spot where I had a very clear access to the hole. You know, I would say 1 minute 30, but not really any longer than that. So I'm staying half the time. I have to have time in case something's not working, that I can still figure out how to get out. And of course, I'm working with the scuba diver. This is usually also the photographer or filmmaker, and he has to keep an eye on me at the whole time. And this is really important. For example, one time I did get lost, and Tobias at the time was very far away from me because he wanted to take a photo of this huge iceberg with me underneath, all in one shot. And to get the shot, he had to be really far away. But the important thing was that he was watching, because normally the photographers, what they do is they will take the picture and then they will look and check if the picture is good, right? No, he can't do that. He has to keep his eye on me until he's sure that I'm back where I need to be. And he saw that I went up in the wrong place because I got disoriented underneath this very big iceberg, and that I was looking around for the exit. And so he came and showed me the exit. And then it was really no big deal. I had enough time to swim to the exit and so on. But the moment where I realized that I'm not in the right place and there is not the hole where I thought there was going to be the hole and there's no hole, That moment is a special moment. You know, you want to go up to breathe, and then there's no hole, and you realize you don't know where the hole is at all. And this is the moment where I have to have the ability to stay calm. And that's why I called the film Save the Fear for Later, because people ask me, how do you do that? And that's the truth. Like, I learned to not be worried about my fear at that moment. Of course, the adrenaline goes up, you know, of course it's stressful, right? But I don't have the space at that moment to get bothered with my stress. No, I have to think about what am I going to do next? And this is a skill. If I start to swim around under the ice looking for the exit in this moment, I would have been gone. Like, Tobias could not have been fast enough to get me. Nobody would have been able to get me with my long fins. You know, if you start swimming in a panic, searching, you will be lost like in no time. And that cannot happen. So the safety system is a combination of who I'm going in the water with, who is outside of the water and is a very experienced guy who's managing the diving there. So amongst ourselves, we discuss how are we going to do it, how we will fix this potential problem, how we will fix this potential problem. And the experience that I have of myself in difficult situations underwater, knowing I'm not going to freak out, I'm going to think about how to solve my problem. And those three things together, and then are important. And on top of that, I think one of the key elements that you need to explore, and of course you are taking a risk, you know, you have to know that also. You're way stepping outside of known safety zones. You are going to be taking a risk. No matter how you think you've been managing the safety, you are still taking a risk. So the ultimate thing I feel is to keep your ego under control, to really never fall in the trap to think that this all working out because you are so good. Oh, we're so good, we're so experienced, we did it safely. No, you were probably an idiot and you got lucky and nothing bad happened, and so it all felt really safe, right? But it's probably just because you just got lucky. And so always check your ego and always recheck and reevaluate, did we really do everything correctly? Or were we just lucky? Maybe we should have done X, Y, Z, other things, because maybe we were actually taking an unacceptable risk and we got lucky. And the next time we don't want to do that again. And I think that's also super important. And that's also where you need a team of people who are like that. Because, you know, if one person is not thinking of something, then someone else will think of it. And they will go, no, actually, I don't like that, how we did that. That was not good. We should do it differently next time, or not at all. Like, right? And I did 3 trips now to Greenland, and every time the conditions were very different because the ice is always different. And so every time I discovered new unexpected problems under the ice. So every time I thought, we fixed this problem, how to not get disoriented under a big iceberg. We just dropped some shot lines into the water that I could see horizontally, that were deep enough for me to see even from the deepest iceberg. As the water very clear, so I could spot the exit much more easily. It was an easy fix, yeah. And but then, you know, I found other problems, and every time I found a surprising problem. So it really is important to always be aware that even if you think you have it all covered, you probably don't. And that's where you need skill and experience and self-knowledge and self-awareness of yourself and also of your team. I think that's super important. And for me also, in an environment like that, it's much about responsibility. So, for example, I was thinking through, even the first time I went, I was thinking through, what is the environment that I'm going into? And we are far out on the sea ice and in the fjord, in the frozen fjords. And it's the Arctic, so the weather can change anytime in minutes, and it can get very cold very, very fast. You have zero visibility if you're unlucky, and you're far out on the ice. And I'm going in -2-degree water in a wetsuit. And so I'm going to get very cold. So we are for hours out on the ice, in the wind, you know, exposed, no shelter. I'm going to be very cold. What clothes do I need to be warm when I'm outside of the water, or to get warm again when I'm coming out of my dive? And how far can I push the dives? How cold do I allow myself to get in the water? Because I have to consider that when I'm getting out of the water and I'm exposed to wind and weather, that I need to get warm again. Because if I get hypothermic out there on the ice in the Arctic, we can get in a really big problem really fast. And then the operator, they said, oh, but it's no problem. We will bring you back to the house with the skidoo. But what if the engine breaks of the skidoo? And then at the same time, the storm comes in. No, I cannot just trust that someone will bring me back and push my limits, as in how cold I allow myself to get. Because people always ask me, how long did you stay in the water? I never stayed beyond the point where I felt I can warm up again on my own. And I have always enough clothes with me to be warm in case the weather gets really bad and we cannot go back. I can stay warm enough to not die, basically. This is my responsibility, no? I have to think about that. Nobody else has to think about that for me. Because the scuba divers are in dry suits. Their situation is very different. They're not getting as cold as I am. You know, they're not wet. They're not exposed. I'm in a 5mm wetsuit. It's very cold. So I have to think all the time of all the implications, and I think also be responsible for my own safety beyond just somebody saying, oh, we will take you back. Yeah, but you know, what if you can't? It's up to me to pick my limits, to not push my limits beyond the point of being able to handle any situation out on the ice and to have the right things with me that I need. It's my responsibility, nobody else's. I think that's really important when you are going to go and do something that's so outside of known boundaries. No.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is really important. And I feel like after talking with athletes coming from different sports, one common thread that I'm seeing is that you need to learn how to manage your fears and not to transform that into panic mode.
Yes.
And I feel like that is a skill that you learn that through time and experience.
Yes.
So how long have you been free diving now? Since how long?
I've been free diving since 2007, but I was a very deep trimix diver before. So I dived 130 meters on trimix in scuba, which you cannot go up if something goes wrong. It's like cave diving. You have to manage all your problems underwater. And this is really where you learn a lot of risk management, because there is no escape, right? If something goes wrong, you have to deal with it. You can't go up because of decompression sickness. You cannot go up. And that is really a great teacher, as in how to manage yourself in the all sorts of situations. And it's also a great teacher in general risk management, and also understanding things like, who are you diving with? Because if you're diving with someone and they freak out, they also put you at risk. So it's also your choice in partners is also important. It's not just you, no? Like, and then still having that awareness and taking responsibility. If I'm diving, it's like climbing, you know, who are you going to climb with? Or alpinism, who are you going in the mountains with? You have to choose that partner really carefully. You need to have a similar idea of risk you want to take. Many things have to fit together, because the partner can put your life in danger. You can put their life in danger. And at the same time, once you do decide to go with someone, you can never blame them, because in the end, it was your decision to go with this person on this day to do this thing. Maybe that was a wrong decision, but it was still your decision. So I think always you are taking responsibility for what you're doing. Nobody is forcing me to go free diving under the ice. If my partner, who's supposed to look after my safety, is making a mistake and it goes wrong because he didn't look after my safety correctly, it is still my choice to do this crazy thing. You know, it's up to me to go with this partner or not. No, like, it's always my choice. And I feel the moment you really start to think like that, you become much, much better in your evaluation of risk. And then also choosing partners that will question you, because we're all likely to fall in the trap to feel really sure that we can do something, right? As a free diver or technical diver, I have to have this absolute faith in my ability to handle this crazy thing. If I'm going to go freediving under the ice without a rope, I cannot do that if I'm not 100% sure that I have the ability to do it. Because if I'm scared while I'm doing it, or even before I'm doing it, that's not helping. That doesn't mean that I'm not very aware of the risks and that I'm taking, but I cannot be like unsure of myself before I do something like that. I have to be sure of my skill. But that is also a trap, because when you are so sure of your skill, like I'm never scared underwater. I'm never scared to go dive because I'm really certain of my ability. But that's also a trap, because then it's very easy to think that you can do everything. No, and sometimes you need someone to question the situation, because I'm likely to think, yeah, it's fine. I'm gonna be fine. Of course I'm fine, because I feel I can handle it. But I have to switch on my really logical brain to look at the situation logically, not how I feel about it, but how it is objectively, and try to be really objective about it. And that's good also to have a partner, because sometimes they will question the situation and sometimes I will question the situation. And then together, you are making better decisions. But I think that's super crucial. And also to know when not to go, like you have to have the ability to say no matter what's on the line. I think the mountaineer who can turn around 100 meters before the summit and just go back, that's the one who's likely to live a long mountaineering life, right? More likely than the others. And this is also a crucial ability I think you need to have. To no matter how much money you spent on it, no matter how much you want to do it, no matter you can never do it again in your life, it doesn't matter. You have to have the ability to say, no, I'm not going. We're not doing it. But that's hard sometimes, because we're all human, we're emotional, we want to do things. No, it's not easy. So there's a lot of layers to that. And I think a lot of that is also experience. And you can learn so much from being taught, from reading, from, watching others. But in the end, it is also experience that you build up, and hopefully you do some stupid things and you survive them. And you get to this point. So there's also people ask me, how can you do this? Because it's such a nightmare, this idea of being without ability to breathe, like 1 meter of ice above my head and I can't find the hole. I mean, it's like the most terrifying nightmare for most people. But you have to also understand that what seems like a huge, crazy thing to do to the viewer maybe, or the outsider, for me, it's one more small step in small steps I have taken over 30 years of diving. So I am taking one little step further. It's not such a huge step for me to do that it appears from the outside, like I'm throwing myself into something totally crazy. No, I did ice diving before, but on scuba, like I did many, many, many little things. I've solved many problems underwater. I've been in a lot of trouble underwater. It's in the nature of doing it. If you do it enough, you will find some trouble at some point. So I have been in difficult situations before. So I know I can handle it. I know what to do in case of X, so for me, this step to go under the ice without a rope is not as wild as it seems from the outside. It's wild enough, but not as wild, maybe. Yeah, that's also something. And there's nothing to replace experience. And I think the importance of it is also to understand when you are not experienced, but you feel you can do everything. Like when I was teaching scuba diving and guiding, we used to have people that we really knew that we have to watch. And they are the people with a bit of experience, that are enough experience that maybe it starts when they have around, 40 dives, say. Because they're now at this point where they're getting confident. They've done it enough to know the boat, to know the gear, to know how to handle everything. They've been in and out a number of times. They've been in a few different environments. So they've done it enough to feel the confidence, but not enough to have encountered any problems yet, and definitely not enough to have had to solve this problem and to know how they are going to react to a problem. And they get very confident in this moment because it just seems easy. Everything always went out well. Oh, that's easy. Scuba diving, easy, until it's not, right? And there is just no replacing that. So understanding when you are new to something, even though everything always worked perfectly and you did everything right and it was always perfect, knowing that you are still new and the fact that it all worked well and it was always perfect just means you haven't found the problem yet. And you still don't know how you're going to be when that problem comes. No, and you just have to have that awareness of yourself, I think, when you are experienced, when you're not experienced. And it's not easy, but then to just understand that the steps you need to take need to be small enough to not go totally crazy, or go with someone experienced. Do hire a guide, do go with a guide, do say to people, I've done it, but I'm not that experienced. I've never found a problem. Say that to the person you're going with to do whatever it is. So they understand also who you are. Be really open and honest with yourself and with others. But you have to also be brutally honest with yourself. Let's back to the ego check. We all like to think that, yeah, I got it. We like to be like that until you don't, and that's a learning process and it takes a long time. But yeah, the ones who are open to learning that, they're more likely to survive the crazy things that you can do out there.
So if we stop for a moment and we think about this short documentary that you did together with Alex, if there is something that you think like the viewers should understand and take out of this, you decided to film this not because you had the intention of creating like a huge documentary with a huge budget. You just decided to put these things together.
Yeah.
And what is your message that you think like viewers should understand watching this short film?
Yeah. I think, the beauty of the wild world out there, and that sometimes the most beautiful places and the most beautiful experiences can be found where it doesn't look obviously beautiful from the outside. If you bring with yourself the will to look at the world in a way where you are willing to be fascinated by it, even when it doesn't look amazing, it's up to you to find something that's interesting. There's always something that's interesting, right? There is never nothing there. There's always something to discover. And in the harder places, that's more difficult, yes? But if you put yourself out there and just go with open eyes to see and unlock, let's say, the hidden fascination and beauty of places that seem just rough and harsh and not beautiful, you will find absolute magic everywhere in the world. And this is something we can train, I think, this way to look at the world. If you do that, it really unlocks the beauty of the world around you everywhere. And I think that's one thing that definitely found in Greenland, because it's not all beautiful, it's rough and challenging and harsh and cold and gray and dark and all those things. But then it is also stunning. And the other thing is really think that when you look at people doing crazy things, what seems really crazy to us, most of the time they have spent a lifetime to go to this place. Even if they're very young, like if you look at some of those crazy free skiers that we see now doing ski mountaineering and steep skiing and things, they maybe started skiing when they were 3 years old. You have to see that what they're doing is one more little step in a long line of small, small steps. So take many small steps to go out there, many small steps, and always be honest with yourself and have the ego check ever so often. I think that's important.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I totally agree with you. It just the fact that you're doing it doesn't mean that if I put on like something, I can just go out there and do the exact same thing that you're doing. Absolutely not. And many people that are getting mistaken by the amount of content that sometimes is available, and you see these people that are doing crazy things with their skis or they're climbing mountains, then accident happens, right?
Yes, and you just feel like everyone's doing it. And of course, few of us are, often the moment where it's really going wrong is not recorded. And then it's really going wrong, but they survived. Because, who's looking at YouTube at the guy that died? Nobody, or the guy that's now in a wheelchair? Nobody. How many skiers end up in a wheelchair, right? Plenty. How many freedivers, because they decided to go spearfishing on their own, blacked out and drowned in 5 meters of water? Plenty. As this is not what we see on YouTube, though. We just see the beautiful moments. So you have to always think about more than just what you're seeing. And I've become cautious with putting the under ice diving out there, because people approached me who literally did 1 weekend freediving course in the Philippines and said to me, can you give me the contact details of the person in Greenland? I want to go do that. And I'm like, you can't. And this girl was a Chinese girl. She said, why not? And I went, because you can't, like you're going to die. Like, I mean, you just cannot. No, like this took me 30 years to do this. And not just freediving. You have to also understand that freediving under the ice around icebergs without a rope may be the largest part of my knowledge and ability in safety, in managing the situation, in managing my mental skill in the situation, is from the technical diving that I've done. The technical scuba diving that I've done, where you have to fix every problem underwater because you cannot go up. You have no exit. So you have to have the mental ability to, even anticipate your problems. Also the risk management beforehand. We freedivers, we usually clip into a rope and then we know how to do it safely, and then it's pretty safe and we don't really think about it. But I have a very different risk management, risk thinking, analyzing background from the technical scuba diving. And that's, that's what people don't see. They just see a freediver swimming around down there, but they don't know how dangerous it is. And of course, this is why also we made this film, and I did put the surprising problems that I discovered into the film. And I said, this is a moment where I have to save my fear for later, because if I'm now going to panic, I will die. Like that's it. No, that's not going to be survivable. So that's part of the reason we put the problems in the film, because I don't want to pretend that I can just swim around there under the ice with no rope, because that would just be stupid, right? And everybody who would say, oh, that's really stupid, would be correct. No, this is a very specific situation, and I chose to cross this boundary and to go without a rope, knowing the risk and having all the skills and the understanding of how to normally do it and versus why we are doing it like this. But you don't ever get to see that. Like people just see me on Instagram and they just think, right, where am I booking my trip? Those images look amazing. And now I want those images too, because we've all also learned that we just want the same pictures, but we don't want the skill. But I think the pictures become beautiful. Also why I said to you, the pictures are in my mind, mostly. The pictures are beautiful because I know what it took me to get there. And to do that, no, it's the combination of my skill and that environment, that I can reach a skill level where I could do this and do it safely and not die. But that took a lot, like the 30 years of diving to go and do that has allowed me to do that. And it's the whole journey in the end that is the beautiful thing. Yeah, so but it's hard to tell that story in 12 minutes, but that's a part of it, definitely.
Yeah. I mean, I really, really hope to see more content in the future, more stories, more, documentaries, films, anything coming from your personal story. I just have one last question for you. And you mentioned that you took many pictures and you're keeping them safe inside your mind. If you had to pick one picture that you are very proud of these moments, which one would you be? I mean, if you are able to share.
So for me, probably from the Greenland story, because you cannot compare them. They're all so different, right? Diving in the Bahamas is completely different than diving in Greenland. So of course I have a range of images, but for me, maybe the most outstanding ones are from Greenland, from under the ice in Greenland. And it's the huge iceberg that is in the film. Because the ice giant, we called it the ice giant, because I've been there 3 times, and both Alex and I had never seen anything like it. And we really didn't know if it was even possible to explore it. And it was a very small window. And it was really the ultimate in going, okay, we're going to try and figure it out, because you couldn't just go and cut a hole and then just go and dive. Like, we had to find a way to do it. And it was so unique, and it probably will never happen again. And then what was revealed to me under the surface was so outstanding, the vastness of the space and that sense of bottomless depth and the bottomless size of this iceberg, that I couldn't see where it ended, that bottomless wall. That really speaks to me as a person who I love exploring the depth of the sea. I love exploring the spaces of the world that seem endless, that seem so vast that you can only see a small bit of it, but knowing there's all this ocean around me and underneath me. And it has that feeling of, being an astronaut in space. And that's how I felt. And that was really an outstanding moment, also because it was almost impossible to actually dive on it. Then we did. And I'll never forget that, because it will probably never happen again.
Well, Anna, thank you so much for sharing all of this. I mean, the film is coming out on ELEVI soon, and then I guess it's going to be available on more streaming platforms soon. But I mean, thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome. It's a good chat.
Thank you. Thanks. If you found value on today's episode, please don't forget to like and subscribe to our content. That will mean the world to us. Every single week, we are going to share insights from filmmakers, athletes, and all the people behind some of the best short films. Hope you liked it, and hope to see you soon. Thanks.